Hi everyone, this is Bharati. Today we are going to start fifth unit, that is DHTML with JavaScript. In this chapter, we will learn about what is DHTML and how can we design web pages using DHTML. Our first topic is data validation. In this, we will learn how can we validate data using JavaScript. So let's start the topic. DHTML with JavaScript. This is our fifth unit. JavaScript interacts with the HTML document, structure of data, and the way that the browser manipulates that data depend upon the document object model. DOM. Objects that can be manipulated by a script are part of a document. So here document object model. What is document object model? DOM is nothing but internal representation of web page. Whenever we are seeing websites, we will interact with the web pages in that website. So those web pages internal representation is done by document object model. Okay. Objects that can be manipulated by a script are part of a document. So, whatever the objects represented in DOM, those will be manipulated by script, that is JavaScript language. So, this JavaScript will interact with the HTML document. Next, how to manipulate the actual browser window. Dynamic HTML is the combined result of objects, classes, style sheets, etc. So, what is DHTML? DHTML is nothing but a combination of JavaScript. Objects class belongs to JavaScript, style sheets belongs to CSS, and our HTML to design web page. So these three languages HTML, CSS and JavaScript combinedly called as dynamic HTML. DHTML is well-structured HTML code. Follows the standards. It is style sheets used to present neutral formatting control, and finally it is the use of scripts to make the text, images and style elements active. What will happen in DHTML? In this DHTML, the text that is represented by text or images represented in HTML and style elements whatever represented by CSS, those will be elements active by using JavaScript language. So this is DHTML. So here JavaScript will interact with the HTML code and it will make changes, that is the elements in the HTML and the elements in the CSS can be active by using JavaScript. So without changing any code in the HTML page and style sheet CSS code, we can manipulate those objects by using JavaScript language. Data validation. Data validation is the process of ensuring that user input is clean, correct and useful. So whether the data entered by the user is correct or not, it will be checked by the data validation. So what happened in data validation? The JavaScript language will validate the page that is designed by HTML and CSS languages. It will be validated by the JavaScript language. So, what are the tasks involved in the validation? Typical validation tasks are: first one, has the user filled in all required fields? So, in web pages, some mandatory fields are there. Suppose whenever you are going to log in for Gmail, then you have to enter your username and password. Those two fields are mandatory, right? So if those two fields are given by the user or not, that will be checked by this data validation, that is using JavaScript language. And second one, has the user entered a valid date? Whether the user entered valid date or not, that will be checked by JavaScript. Has the user entered text in numeric field? Whether some fields will be numeric fields are there in our web pages. So in that numeric field, whether the text data has entered by the user or not. So that will be validated. Most often the purpose of data validation is to ensure correct user input. So what the purpose of data validation? Whether the correct data, that is correct input, is given by user or not, that will be validated. The validation can be defined by many different methods and deployed in many different ways. So these are the two ways that the data validation will be defined. One is server side validation and another one is client side validation. In the client side validation, is performed by a browser before input is sent to a web server. So where it will be happen, that is in the web browser, that is at the client side. So whenever you are logging into your Gmail, if you are not giving your user ID or password or both, then what the message will be displayed? Date, user ID and password should be entered. So that type of messages will be given by the browser side, that will be validated by the client side. So whenever you are not entering the values in the Gmail login, then immediately browser side validation, that is client side validation, will be done and the message will be displayed by the browser. The fields should be must fill. So that type of message will be given. So that is called the client side validation. So here the data is not sent to the server. Here the browser only itself it validated the fields. That is called the client side validation. What is server side validation? It is performed by a web server after input has been sent to the server. So where it will happen? It is happen at the web server. So not at the client where the program is deployed. Actual program is where it is running. There only the validation will be done. So that will be called as server side validation. For example, whenever you are logging into your Gmail account, if you have given your password wrong or your ID wrong, then what will be displayed? The ID is not correct or password is not correct, right? So here what happened? The data, whatever you enter, that will be sent to the server by the web browser. So there the server will be validated that data and display the message to your browser. So that type of validation is called as server side validation. So in this example, what we are validating, the name field can't be empty. Here we have two fields, that is one is name field and password field. So name field can't be empty and password field can't be less than 6 characters long. So these are the two conditions for our form. Here we are validating the form on form submit. So when the form will be validated, when the data form is submitted, then only we have to validate the data. The user will not be forwarded to the next page until given values are correct. So these are the conditions for our validation data, that is our form. Let's see how the program will be designed for this example. HTML tag. In this HTML tag, I want to write a body tag. In this body, I want to give a form tag as we are validating two fields, that is, one is name and another one is password. So I have to represent those two fields in my form. So name, as it is taking input from the user, we are giving input, and type is, as the name type is text, so here we are mentioning text, and break. I want to give new line for another field, so break. Next password, next field is password, and this is also taking the input from the user, so input, and type, as the password type is password, I mention here password type is password, and after these two fields we have to submit these two fields to validate that. So another one we have to enter, so I want to give here break. Next one is we have to give a button, so input, and type is submit. Whenever we representing submit as a type, then it will give a button, and I have to give the value for this button, which will display the name on the button. I am giving here register name to my button. So these fields I have to represent in my form. So I am closing my form, and I am closing body tag. And last one, I want to close HTML tag. Okay, this is our form. In this, we are simply representing name, password, and one button. That button is register button. We have to validate this form. So we have to validate this form by using JavaScript function. So to write the JavaScript function, I am writing that function in head section. So I have to mention head section. In that head, as we are writing JavaScript function, so script tag, and we are writing as a function, and the function name I am giving here validate form. So starting of the function, to validate the form, function is to validate the form means what we are validating here, name and password, right? So these two fields we have to refer here. To refer these two fields here, we have to give name for these two fields. So mentioning name equal to, I am giving here name only for this field to refer in JavaScript function, and for this password field, name is equal to password. So now we can, whatever the user give the input for this name and password, now we can refer these two fields in this function by using these names. we have to take variables to represent those two fields, name and password. So for that I am declaring variables name, and it will take the value from this name field. So as it is in the document object document dot, as it I have to mention as this name field is in the form field form tag. So we have to mention name for this form and giving here name as my form to represent this form in this JavaScript function. So here it is my form. So in this document we are defining this document object and which is in the my form, and the field name is name, and we want to give value of the name. Okay, next variable we have to declare as a password, and this is also taken from the document object document in document form object. So my form, in this form here what is the name of this password, right? So password, and password value we are taking. Okay, what's happening here? Here we are declaring two variables, and those two variables are refer in the form object name and password fields. So those values will be written here. Now we have to validate this data. First we have to validate for name. What is the condition? It cannot be blank or it cannot be space, empty, right? So if name equal to null, or name equal to space means empty. It cannot be null, it cannot be empty. Then we want to display a message to the user, alert message. So alert, what alert message we want to display, we have to write here. So I want to write here name can't be blank, and return false. So whenever the user entered null value or empty for the name fields, and whenever he submit the register, then we want to return false. So then it will not reach to the destination page whenever we enter the wrong input. Next we have to validate password. So else if, what is the condition? Password length no, should not less than 6 characters. If you enter less than 6 characters, then I want to display alert message to the user. So alert the message is password must be at least 6 characters. Characters long. So this message I want to display. And whenever and after that returning false. Pass to the destination page. So it will not give any value to the destination page. So this is our JavaScript function, and I am closing JavaScript function as we are validating these two fields. So scripting is over. So I want to close script tag. Script, and I have to close head tag. Okay. Now okay. What we did here, we write the two fields in our form. For these two fields we have written JavaScript function. So to activate that JavaScript function, we have to give here any action. So here my form, we have to submit this my form, right? So the method, we have to mention method is equal to post, and we have to submit this function, submit this page. So I want to give a dummy submit page, the JSP, that is abc.jsp, and to validate that, to activate this JavaScript function on submit equal to return which function, validate form, we are returning. So what is happening here? Here the form has taken the two input values from the user, that is name and password. After taking the input values, we are passing these field values to the JavaScript function to validate those two fields. So here we are declaring two variables, name and password, and the values we are passing here to these variables, and we are validating here to those fields. So first for name, if it is null, then we want to mention a alert message, that is it will display alert message, and if password length is less than 6 characters, then also it will display an alert message. To perform this function, JavaScript function on submit, we are taking here an event. So on submit, whenever user click the button, register button, then it will return validate form. So it will come here and it will validate here, then it will display the messages. Okay, this is our program. We will save this program. File, save. I am saving on desktop. as validation dot html. Okay, this is our program, and I have saved this as validation.html. Okay, here we have to give value. Again we have to save this. Okay, after making any changes we have to save again. So I have saved this one. Now we will execute this program. As I saved that in on desktop. So this is our validation.html. Open this one. So here two fields we got, and one button that is registered. So I don't want to give any name as we are validating here. I submit this page without giving name. So here what the message, alert message display, name can't be blank. Okay, password, some 5 characters I have given, sorry 4 characters I have given here. So submit. What it is displaying, password must be at least 6 characters long. Okay, now okay, so here we validated this form, name can't be blank and password must be 6 characters. So this is the way how to we validate the form. After submitting this form, we didn't give to any action page. So we gave only dummy action page, that is abc.jsp. So here it is going to abc.jsp, but we didn't design that page. So here it is displaying a blank abc.jsp page. So this is our validating form. These are the books you have to refer. Thank you.